years old. You're not freaking 19. What the heck? What?
God, I forgot how weird this ship was. Welcome, everybody, to the beginning of one of the worst mistakes of my life, as I take a look back on shipping in Adventure Time. The good, the bad, and the whatever the hell this was. And while this one was never my favorite ship, I couldn't possibly start this series with anything else. So here we are talking about a 600-year-old wad of gum pretending to be 18 and the young boy adventurer who simped for her. This is all about their weird dynamic and what we loved about it, how weird it is in hindsight, and not the great love story that never happened, but the great friendship that it created. To explain all of Adventure Time is a task no sane man can ever do. The bare bones of it, though, is that there is a magical land called Ooh. No, I'm not exaggerating, it's just called Ooh. The last known human, Finn, goes on adventures with his adopted shape-shifting dog brother Jake, again, stay with me, exploring magical new lands, high-tech kingdoms, battling demons, wizards, monsters of every shape, and this is all happening on Earth after a nuclear war. Again, stay with me. Adventure Time is the story of these two dumbasses, and while it consistently is just an episodic adventure show with no massive overarching plot for the longest time, it was also filled with wisdom and life lessons that Finn the human needs to learn as he grows from a kick all your problems in the boing loins to a mature, probably traumatized young man who doesn't want to see anyone get hurt. I label a lot of Adventure Time a second monitor show. It's not something that I would actively sit down and watch on its own, but it's also something that I can never get enough of, because it's a show that changed. You grew up with this show, and while it never lost its wacky roots, it had a level of introspection and profound moments that only got more and more poignant as you grew up with it. It's special to me, and I know it's special to a lot of other people out there.
If just being born is the greatest act of creation, then what are you supposed to do after that? Isn't everything that comes next sort of a disappointment? Slowly entropying until we deflate into a pile of mush?
This was not what the fandom was talking about as the show was airing, though. Nah, we had a lot more baser needs. Adventure Time's shipping game was on fucking crack. Top 5 shipping communities of the last decade easily. Like, people were obsessed with who this kid was going to end up with. The proper princess, the renegade vampire, literal fire, or Huntress Wizard. Shipping drama was constant, and it was glorious. Because while a lot of these ships hit dead ends, people were never complete dicks about it. Instead, it was just people showing off their passion and desire to date a character vicariously. A lot of great fan art, a lot of great fan fiction, but behind it all, Finn's love life was, in a word, terrible. Cute at times, lots of potential, but the kid didn't figure out dating till he was 17, which is still better than most people, but if you met him before, then he was a mess. A stupid, manipulative mess. We love this boy, but like everything in Adventure Time, things look fine at the start, only for us to realize how deeply fucked up they were in hindsight. Which, fucked up in hindsight, might as well be tattooed across Princess Bubblegum's head. The princess of the Candy Kingdom, Finn's first true love, was a sentient piece of bubblegum, even though she should be called onions because this girl's got layers. When initially started as a scientifically minded princess cliche, your initial impression of her is that she is kind, caring, can be tough when she needs to be, but overall, a good person. And by the end of the series, only one of those statements turned out to be true. Here is the initial characterization for Princess Bubblegum, or PB. She's with Finn in a graveyard trying to bring back the dead. This accidentally created a zombie apocalypse that she refuses to tell her subjects about, tasking Finn with keeping her people occupied while she comes up with an antidote. Finn saves the day without it, but in doing so technically breaks his promise to keep it a secret, causing her giant gumball guardians to try and murder him. But she confesses to care for him, so they let him off with a math reference. This was the first episode of the show, and it kind of tells you everything you need to know about Bubblegum and her relationships to other people, Finn in particular. In spite of being the princess of the Candy Kingdom, she is basically the queen. She's in charge and wants to keep everyone safe. Except she does this by keeping her people ignorant of danger, coddling them so that they're dependent on her for everything. Sure, the candy people would explode if they got too scared, but there's no serious mode for her subjects. It's just trust me, do what I say and everything will be fine. This extends to Finn to a certain extent as well, because while she's not as coddling or controlling to him as she is to the rest of her people, there's a certain level of distance that she keeps. Because Finn is her friend, who she can count on in dangerous situations, and she values him as a person, valuing him for his unique skill set. She doesn't talk down to him for not being as smart as her, instead valuing his heroic qualities that made him a good fighter and an overall righteous kid. That said, there is something weird and off about their initial relationship. You can almost see them working as close friends, like they liked each other, they hang out. But PB doesn't really share personal details, unless it's relevant to the situation. Her history with the Candy Kingdom as its founder, her creating the Candy People. None of this is outright revealed until late in the story, which reveals this need-to-know basis that PB keeps everyone on. It's why Marceline was ultimately her perfect match, as she had that extra context and had a better understanding of who PB was and her needs. And that distance is something that I always felt, and is why I could never really fully ship this, as it always felt so one-sided. Finn is living the stereotypical 12-year-old boy's dream, being the adventuring hero, beating up bad guys, rescuing princesses, hanging out with your best bro, partying, pole dancing, the whole enchilada, with the whole story basically revolving around him. It's a power fantasy in every sense of the word, which I know, very much a malign term, but in this case, it's not a bad thing, as one of the best things about Adventure Time is that it examines this trope and really puts in the work in explaining the world behind it. Finn is young. He's only 12 when the story starts, so he's still figuring out social skills and becoming his own person, not just the bag of tropes that he aspires to be. And because, unlike the rest of us, Finn can go out and fight wizards and save the day, and it's just an awesome world to live in. Mostly. But it is also one that allows people like Finn to indulge in that fantasy while ignoring a lot of the life lessons people need to function when they get older. It's hard to learn violence isn't the answer when it always seems to work, or how you can always save the girl yet your 18-year-old crush can only see you as a friend. PB is always helping out Finn. Finn is always saving her. They have a strong positive effect on both of their lives. But he is also a child who thinks that the age gap is it. That's the only reason we're not together. Because we're such good friends. We must make a great couple. And it's that naivete that colors this early relationship from his angle. This little idiot thinks this can work, but really he has no chance. None. But it's done in a way that totally makes sense for his age. Because I feel like most people have always had that one crush. Someone who was older and you thought if only we were the same age, we would totally be a thing. Plus you have that one friend who is egging you on with bad advice.
You have to be persistent.
And I think the saving grace of this ship is that Finn rarely
Science dance! Hey, princess! You want to spend some time with me?
post season 1 comes off as entitled to PB. He isn't getting pissed off that she doesn't love him enough, that he doesn't get enough attention from her. But he does rub his face against a piece of her hair he keeps in his room.
What kind of shit is that?
Yeah, remember how I said everyone had a crush like that when you were a kid? Yeah, well this is that weird shit. That while I'm sure none of you did this, you probably knew someone who was obsessed over someone else. It's not great, and in a small semi-related tangent, Adventure Time has multiple different eras to me. There's just a different tone, a different vibe for the show, and for me, the first 2 seasons kind of encompass the early era, where they didn't quite know how deep they were going to take this show. Uncle Gumbald being the Punch Bowl, Bubblegum and Marceline being exes, can guarantee that they didn't plan a lot of it. It was instead expanded on later by writers, giving more depth and lore to the world. Kind of like Cookie Cat and Steven Universe serving as a parallel for his own decisions to leave the Crystal Gems. They didn't plan that. Once they realized they can make the connection, they went with it, which is good writing. The first 2 seasons of Adventure Time aren't the nuanced introspection we'd expect in the later part of the series. These first 2 are much more built to just be a fun adventure show. It has its moments, but it was a fun comedy first with only tinges of nightmare fuel. It was more about capturing the feelings of youth than trying to create an airtight narrative or feel like a fully realistic one. It wanted those big emotions. It wanted you to have that sense of relatability, like, oh shit, I've felt like that before. Which is why we have Finn cradling a piece of her hair. It's creepy. I do not condone this, but it nails the vibe that they're going for, though I very much still cringe at it, especially with how it's just played off.
Oh, you.
I get what they're doing, it's still weird, but it does its job. It shows how Finn's crush hits an unhealthy level. The boy adventurer has more feelings than brains, and y'all are probably wondering, what does this ship have to offer? Like, besides aesthetic? Which means it's time to talk about Too Young.
Unacceptable!
So, backstory. The Lich possessed Princess Bubblegum and the Ice King killed her.
Okay, I didn't kill her this time. Everybody saw that, right?
Dude.
The doctors were able to reconstruct her body because she is sentient gum, but didn't have enough to fully remake her into her 18-year-old self, so now she's 13. Stay with me.
Well, I'm out of here. Goodbye, everyone.
Which is the same age as Finn, which he is so excited for. So Too Young is about a 13-year-old PB goofing off with Finn as they bully her autistic son into leaving. This, in my mind, was the one and only time that this ship fully works. We see them not just hanging out, but growing closer. The emotional distance that PB usually puts up is gone. She's on Finn's level of dumbass, which I found to just be really cute. It reminded me a lot of early Starco, where they just felt like partners in crime. They're both being mischievous, pulling pranks on each other, and just genuinely having a good time. This is PB without the responsibility of the throne or centuries of personal trauma. Like, she knows how to turn herself back, but chooses not to because she's just having a good time with Finn and no work. That probably played a big part of it too. We had it so easy back then, but it works here. For the first time in the show, they are at the same level, and you can see the potential of what they could have been if the circumstances were different. They had a connection, but it was something that only really existed in this childhood stage for them. The second PB becomes 18 again, their relationship is reset. She's ruler, and while she finds Finn adorable, has no interest in pursuing a romance. Yes, she used his DNA to make a kid, but it was purely for scientific purposes. All this left Finn with the memory of one kiss that they shared and sobbing over how this ship will never work. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that this ship really does peak here. After this, he's yet again stuck between being a friend and simping. Like, I think this ship had a chance to work when Finn was older, and they did do that in the comics, but that's a whole other conversation. He was dating Marceline and Bubblegum then. I think an older Finn could have formed a relationship with PB from season 1. His childhood crush turned into devotion, invoking a knight to his liege, the link to her Zelda. It could have served as an expansion on their already existing relationship of Finn rescuing her constantly, or him following her commands to help the people of Ooh. He could have been the fun guy to help PB chill out and not go full tyrant. I think he could have been a good balance if he had matured enough. I think he really could have helped PB touch some grass. Because as she is so analytical, she is so science focused, she is so focused on the goal that she often lost track what real people thought. That's why she ended up getting kicked out of her own kingdom, as she kept treating them as subjects, not people. So she needed some grounding influence in her life, which she ultimately had to get by getting kicked out of her own kingdom. Like, Finn could have been that one. That devotion that he had also could have made him obsessive and lead him to only just worsen the problem as he obeyed whatever she did. Like, I love their dynamic in all the fan art. It definitely has this romantic quality to it. The noble hero and his regal love. I can see why people loved this idea so much. That's not them though.
Kiss me, Finn. I mean, kiss me, Finn.
As cute as the imagery is, Finn and Bubblegum rapidly outgrew this idealized version of themselves. People were latching on to this idealized version of who they were and losing track of who they had actually become. Finn was a lovesick puppy, but he did move on to the first hot girl that he met. And PB went from a smart princess to a benign dictator running a police state. With citizens she intentionally infantilized, as she assumed they'd be happier stupid. PB's shadiness became her default character trait, and she was all the better for it. While this ship would rear its underwhelming face on occasion, Finn having a brief love triangle when he assumed she was jealous of Flame Princess, or that one time that he tried to get back together after the best princess dumped his abusive ass, or when he dived headfirst into post-breakup mood by redirecting all of his emotions onto PB, being her knight, which ended up just showing the reality of that idealized form of their relationship, where Finn's devotion is obsessive and really just a distraction for his actual problems. But after all those weird jumps, those hiccups, they really do start to build a strong friendship, way better than the weak shipping that they had before. When PB is kicked out of her kingdom for being a dictator, Finn is right there supporting her and doing his best to help her out whenever he can. His feelings turn completely platonic, even going so far as to see her as one of the boys. That the memories of him being friends with her are more valuable to him than when he was trying to love her. And this is what I really value about the relationship. It's this life lesson, because sure, there'll be CJs where a bad breakup causes you to never see another person again. Sometimes people just don't have to be in a romantic relationship. It dispels the idea that romance always has to be an all or nothing game. Not being able to date them doesn't mean you have to cut them out of your life completely, which I love because that is so rarely shown in fiction. It's like a happily divorced couple. It happens, but you wouldn't know it by watching TV. Regular Show played with this idea when they had Margaret and Mordecai agree to be friends. But Margaret ended up getting sidelined, and it was always couched with this possibility that they might get back together, which kind of defeats the purpose. Finn and Bubblegum were never going to get back together. That was always clear, because instead they had become such good friends. They supported each other in their darkest hour, and unlike in the beginning of the show, they finally understand one another. With Finn trying his hardest to talk PB out of making bad decisions. If this had happened in season 3, Finn would have defaulted to just following her lead, desperate to win her approval. Because he thought that doing what she says will make her think he's more mature, when really it just showed the opposite. I was never a Finn Bubblegum person. Even early on, I recognized how cute they were, but the chemistry and interest just wasn't there, which made me so happy that through it all, they are able to stay friends. There's a lot of pining, there's a lot of weird moments. To not support it, but to just watch it, it was still a fun ship. And it really solidifies to me just how great the character work was in Adventure Time. Wasn't a great ship to me, but it was a good one. The next one, though, is one of my favorites.
What's wrong with you? Don't ever mess with me again.
Dude, I think I have a crush.
So stay tuned for my Flame Princess and Finn video. I will be having a field day with it. Not sure when it's going to be out, so subscribe and be kept in the loop for what's sure to be one of my biggest regrets. Tell me what you all thought about Finn and Princess Bubblegum. Go correct me in the comments. Love you all. Peace out. No one in the history of animation has dropped the ball harder than Finn. I know some people will take that personally, and you should. But this kid had a fire girlfriend, but then decided watching his girl beat up a guy with magical Alzheimer's was a kink he was ready to die on, and worth abusing the second best thing he had going. For those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, Adventure Time is a weird show. Amazing, but out of context, everything sounds like a Mad Lib. Cthulhu was hanging out as a penguin? Happened. Stolen fries triggered a family feud? Happened. Boy dates literal fire? Yo, you already know it happened. Adventure Time is famous for many things, quote-unquote saving Cartoon Network, evolving into an existential dread piece, lesbians, and inventing cartoon Pete Davidson, who should be kissing this pudgy little white boy, was up there with Steven Universe for topics that will burn the internet to the ground for no goddamn reason. It was an amazing time to be alive. Y'all already know I love ships, but it's more than that. I love drama, and this show's fandom was the gift that never stopped giving. The story of a teen adventurer dating literal fire, I'm there. If the series ends with him abusing her to get off, that's terrible, but even better. Because that happened, and it was awful. But God, was it fun to watch. It illustrates something I don't see in enough shows. Good people actually doing terrible things. Things worked out in the end, but this ship still sticks with me. This video is why I love Flame Princess and Finn, the ship that defined Adventure Time and showed the darker side of dating. Is that a pretentious title? God, I hope so. Before we dive into that, Backstory. Finn the human lives in the land of Ooh, his brother is a dog and an idiot. He wasted his early teens simping for gum and didn't take rejection well. That's everything you need to know. If you have any questions, watch this other thing I made. His context is for quitters who read the wiki. So naturally this video will be full of it. Back in the day, people who watched Adventure Time were tired. We spent 3, maybe 4 seasons watching Finn pine for a woman he had no shot with. So the fact that the season 3 finale ended with this.
Dude, I think I have a crush.
The people gave a collective sigh of relief as we could finally move the fuck on. It was a feeling Miraculous fans aren't familiar with, because for as much as people love shipping, watching a show waste hours of our life on a ship you know won't happen until the end is a special kind of hell reserved for guys named Kyle. Pure agony. The fact that they were giving Finn a new love interest. I was just on board. I didn't care who it was, just please let us move on. Only for it to turn out, they gave us one of the best characters in the show.
For my evil daughter! What?
Don't ever mess with me again.
Flame Princess works for many, many reasons, but the wardrobe aside, the episode that introduced her is just perfect. Jake finally decides his little brother's lack of game is his problem, so he goes off looking for a new girl to shut him up, stumbling into the Fire Kingdom, where the princess is being held in a glass tube, which yeah, kinda messed up, but it's not. Still it is. So Jake makes a big show about how much Finn wants to date her, trying to earn Keith David's approval, my life goal. Failing to do so, he creates a fake Finn that tries to kill Jake, even though Jake's the one controlling him, because say it with me folks, Jake is an idiot. Hung, but dumb. This display of senseless violence, though, is exactly what the king is looking for, as newsflash,
She's an unstoppable force of destruction. Nothing a psycho like you can't handle.
realizing Finn is too young to date crazy, Jake breaks it off in the worst way possible.
Bye, Flammo!
Which, you know what? Fine. No harm, no foul. She's only been here 20 seconds and has already burned down the house. Queen shit, people. This display of dominance gets Finn's attention. Well, it was more of her burning his creepy shrine, but semantics. It's love at first sight. And in the most realistic moment in Adventure Time, the teen boy forgets his crush immediately, sacrificing his precious lock of Bubblegum's hair. Yes, he is creepy. It will only get worse. He saves Flame Princess, who is suffering from whiplash, as him being into her isn't what Jake pretended to do. She leaves her mark and bounces.
Don't ever mess with me again.
That's a really solid first meeting. Finn is in love and she thinks he's screwing with her, which is basically how this all ends. Gotta love that foreshadowing. The next episode does a lot more to add fuel to this fire. Finn is determined to see her again. Flame Princess, no longer pissed off, shows off the naivete you'd expect from someone who was raised in a chandelier. Destructive, yet beautiful. Temperamental, yet gentle. I love it. It's almost poetry.
It's really starting to come together.
I did say almost. Yeah, Finn describes Flame Princess as not evil, but passionate. This is accurate, technically, as she doesn't fully understand the consequences of her actions, but her actions be terrible. Then, just to initiate a fan art renaissance, Flame Princess calls Finn a water elemental before flying into the distance, setting them up as a traumatic pairing that no matter how much they want to be together, it can't be. Now here's what's brilliant about these 2 episodes as it pertains to the ship. The thing that brings them together is the thing that dooms them. Finn is attracted to her passion because he, being 13 I think, is so passionate. It's always big all the time and leads him to making decisions that others would question. Finn watched a girl break into his house, kick his ass, burn down a village, and he decided he needs that in his life. Passion makes him ignore the logic part of his brain, and it just works. They start dating, and it's sweet and wholesome. But that passion, that reason that they got together, that Finn was able to look past that violent first impression, is what breaks them up in the end. And because I want to, Let's talk about Flame Princess. Flame Princess, or FP for those of you who had to type this shit. Born with more power than her dad, the Flame King locked her up in a lamp because murder didn't work the first time. All things considered, she's incredibly well adjusted, but being imprisoned her entire life left her isolated in a way that isn't immediately obvious. Everything outside the Fire Kingdom is a new experience for her. You can kind of look at her story as a girl escaping her abusive family, with her knowing that her home life and upbringing were bad, but still unconsciously affects the way she interacts with the world. She was raised to believe she was evil, and that's how she defines herself for the longest time, uncaring about what happens to other people, focused only on personal satisfaction. She's fire and destroys everything she touches. It's natural for her. How is she supposed to know that it's wrong? And it's a really easy mindset to fall into when her dad is actually evil. Being freed from her lamp and meeting Finn was her chance to become her own person, away from her family. To ignore her dad's influence, literally.
Evil, 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 evil.
Thinking about FP in this context, really though, just makes what Finn does later even worse. As she realizes she went from escaping one guy controlling her and not respecting her boundaries to another one. It wasn't Finn's plan, and at first, they were just cute kids doing cute shit. Finn helped her build a house, got her stuff back from her dad, and getting the talk from the man who couldn't take his own advice.
Do not do tier 15!
A few moments later.
I am pregnant!
I'm puppies?
These two were just a serotonin overload. Because it had problems, but there were no shenanigans. No BS for why these two couldn't get together. Instead, we were getting drama about them being together. In the first episode where we see them together, Princess Bubblegum shows up looking to get her 13-year-old back. That's not what happened, but the ads wanted you to think it was.
Hero, Finn. You're my hero.
No.
Adventure Time, all new episode, Monday at 7:30, 6:30 Central.
The fact that Flame Princess is living fire made it so that she couldn't touch Finn without burning him. Ignore the fact that a spell exists that could deal with this, the aluminum wrap is way funnier. The real drama was the fact that FP has a chemical imbalance that makes it so her powers respond to her feelings, and kissing sets her off something fierce. She could nuke the planet, which is insane. Major props to Finn's kissing game. They nearly die the first time, but luckily Finn's mouth-to-mouth game is still on point. But physical intimacy is off the table. Thank you, tragedy. That hurts. Can I please have some more? That all aside, things are going good at this point. And for the first time since the first time they killed Jake, I was happy. All the fans were happy. Well, except for the people that shipped him with Bubblegum, and Marceline, and LSP, and Ice King, Gunther, Choose Goose, his son, his brother's girlfriend, and Ron Perlman. But fuck him, this is my video. Everyone was happy. And I was happy for one very specific reason. They were dating, and the show didn't end. 90% of stories end with couples kissing, and then skipping right to their god-awful kids. Maybe I'm just easy to please, but to see Finn actually date someone was a joy to me. Because as a kid, watching couples interact was practically a new experience. We were always just stuck with this idealized version of relationships where you fall in love, then everything works out till the day you die. That puts this unrealistic goal in kids' heads, that if anything goes wrong, they're not the one, and you're somehow screwing this up. FP and Finn though, yeah, things were great most of the time, but you can still feel those fights and differences brewing. They had doubts. It's what made it feel so much more real and so much more valuable. There's a whole episode about Finn taking his girl on a dungeon crawl, which is basically mimicking the real life experience of trying to get your friends into D&D and them just not being into it. And that's an experience everyone has, not Dungeons and Dragons, trying to show people your passions and to have them not be as excited about it as you are. And that's never a great feeling. It's disappointing. But so what? Do you quit? Do you not do it anymore? Do you hide that part of yourself and do it on your own time? But the fact that they find a way to still be able to enjoy it together, I love that. It's meaningful and it just feels that much more real. And they spent the whole episode teasing the fact that Flame Princess might be evil, making Finn doubt the relationship because he's an idiot. Finn still likes her, but he's got some doubts and can't tell if those are red flags or torches. So naturally he fucks a pillow. This show is weird. I cannot understate that. Finn, depressed about how his girlfriend didn't laugh at his joke, wastes his day hanging on to negative thoughts, my personal pastime, going to a pillow fort to let his mind fester, but suddenly finds himself in a magical pillow land, where he gets to sleep with his first body pillow.
Where I'm from, blankets and pillows are used for bedding.
Well, they're used for that here, too.
Still, to this day, that is the best innuendo to ever come out of Cartoon Network. Finn ends up spending his whole life in the pillow world, marries a pillow, has pillow kids, dies, then wakes up in the real one, having forgone the whole thing. It was insane. It was also a highly symbolic episode about Finn's relationships and his desire to fuck a pillow. Like, I can't undersell how fun these two were together. They were chaotic, but they were chaotic together. When Finn gets stripped naked in front of her less evil family members, she's pissed. Till she realizes it's Jake controlling him for a bet, then she fully supports him. That was just how they do. They had fun and understood this is what they signed up for. And she liked his stupidness. She liked the little jokes and gags that he would do. They were blowing up farts together. I don't know how else to say. These two were just having a good time. And that mutual passion, that love of fun, was about to ruin everything. Because they're teenagers, and teenagers are idiots. Let's talk about the breakup. The episode that snapped a ship in half and made everyone realize heroes can do bad things is simple in a way. One day, Finn watched Flame Princess beat up the Ice King. This turned him on, and that night he dreamt she blasted his crotch with fire.
Oh, so good!
Turning into a hormone demon, he tricks her into beating up Ice King, telling her that the old man was talking shit. He kicks her ass, and Finn, in the words of a great man,
It gave me a rock hard.
this is Finn's problem. Watching his girlfriend be a badass is his kink, and they only teach abstinence only in the land of Ooh. So unable to deal with these emotions, he assumes that it's something more than it is.
Rock hard.
So he needs to have it happen again. As a second dream, had the Ice King put the party in his pants. Needing that third hit, he writes 2 fake letters to get the elementals to fight again. And Finn's letter to Flame Princess is him showing off everything that he's learned about her, and using it to hurt her. Starting with vanilla, "You're the worst," then going to mock her appearance, which yeah, isn't cool, but it's also generic. So then he decides to make things personal, making fun of her scented candles, the only thing she wanted to get back after she left home, calling out her insecurity about having smelly feet, before proceeding to dump on their relationship, how because of her imbalance, they can't touch or kiss. So yeah, he's a creep. Flame Princess destroys the Ice Kingdom. And bully for Finn, he gets his wet dream, where he transforms into a giant man baby with even the Cosmic Owl stating the obvious. And then the Cosmic Owl states the obvious.
You blew it.
Finn, realizing he's gone too far, confesses to writing the letter, obtusely explaining why he did it when really he was just horny. But Flame Princess doesn't hear any of it. She zones out as the realization hits her that her boyfriend lied to her, tricked her, used her just like her family did. Detecting a pattern, she leaves him, as she should. And that was it.
But I said I was sorry.
You blew it, man.
Now it's a rare thing in shipping fandoms for a breakup to go over well, and this did trigger a flame war. It's even rarer though for a ship to sink and for everyone to near unanimously agree it's the hero's fault. Did most people blame Finn for this? No, everyone blamed Finn for this. Some people blame the writers, but that's neither here nor there. Now, Finn is confused after this, and basically throws himself into his job and at PB to not deal with the breakup. But screw him, let's talk about Flame Princess. FP changed a lot over the short time that she was in the show, going from a chaotic neutral hellspawn to a pretty down-to-earth girl. She was able to shake off the crappy upbringing she was given in the Fire Kingdom, a place where her dad killed his brother for the throne and left her out to die because she had the potential to be more powerful than him. FP learned to be better than her roots though, thanks to living on her own, hanging out with Finn, realizing how much of her identity was her own interests and not the labels others gave her. Then her boyfriend pulled her dad, and suddenly everything sucked. FP is left wondering who she is, wondering are there any decent men left in the world? Which brings us to...
Hello.
Hello.
You look sad.
Yeah, but mostly I'm confused.
Huh, me too.
Yeah, Cinnamon Bun, a joke character whose main characteristic is being an idiot, turns out to be Flame Princess's new best friend and support. He's a little slow. Some would say he's underbaked, but he is honest, he is sincere, and he always gives it to her straight.
Is everybody in this world hiding something?
It's fun to hide.
You're all right.
This caused her to stop dwelling on Finn, to stop trusting Bubblegum, and to not put up with her dad's whispering bullshit. She's gonna do her own thing, which in this case, overthrowing her dad and taking over the Fire Kingdom, enforcing her trauma onto everyone else by making honesty mandatory. And of course, Finn rolls up trying to get her back, but she doesn't want that. She's ruling a kingdom now, and while she doesn't say it, Finn burnt that bridge. So them as an item is off the table. This drives Finn back into depression, not as bad as Bubblegum, but still pretty awful and way longer lasting. Flame Princess says, it's okay if we hang out again, like if you're being honest with me, but Finn's honest answer is I want to be back together, which effectively means they stop hanging out for a while. So they didn't get back together, and Finn deserves everything that happens to him after this, and Flame Princess goes back to doing queen shit. Romance is meeting the right person at the right time. They were great together, but Finn was too immature for this. He fell for her because of her passion, because it reflected his own. It's what got them together in the first place. But when Finn's passion told him to do something stupid and horrible, violating her privacy and abusing her, he did it. He manipulated her, and she dumped his ass as she should. For me, Flame Princess and Finn was my favorite ship in the show. So it sucked to see them break up, but I understood it. I even thought, hey, maybe they'll get back together in the future. Lots of denial fan art later. It didn't happen. He blew it. It really was just the wrong time for them to meet. The writers like to tease the idea of them getting back together, but it wasn't to be. When Flame Princess needed help getting her kingdom back, she went to Finn, who proceeded to waste all of his time trying to impress her to get her back, leaving Cinnamon Bun to get the win.
I love her.
Thank you. Aw, how sweet.
They're not romantically together, by the way. Finn's life just wasn't the same after Flame Princess. Finn dropped his feelings for Bubblegum hard, but Flame Princess, he was pining for that for a long time afterwards. It was so bad that years later, he was still playing it cautious when it came to his new love. But Adventure Time wasn't the same after this. It was still weird and fun, but it got more introspective, more existential. It was still wacky, but things were different now. Finn was different. He wasn't the dumb kid anymore who would stab and lock up all of his problems anymore. He loved and lost his arm, got it back, got molested. What I'm trying to say is Finn finally grew up after this. He realized how badly he blew it. He realized just the true scope of what he did and why it was wrong. And seasons later, he apologized again as he finally understood that.
When we broke up, I said sorry, but I didn't fully understand exactly what I did wrong. I get it now. I shouldn't have manipulated you. That was a really, really messed up thing to do, and I'm truly sorry.
And it was only after that did they truly start to hang out again, which I think is, in essence, why I love this ship, why I love shipping and Adventure Time so much. It never feels like one giant kiss and credits. The show was 10 seasons long, and it had the time to show how people are changed by their relationships. Finn was changed. Flame Princess changed. They didn't pull a regular show and shuffle her into the background like Margaret, or give us zero closure like CJ. Instead, we got to see them be exes and figure out what they want. What are they going to be to each other moving forward? And they became friends again and started hanging out. It wasn't perfect. There was always this slight awkwardness to it, like they had this guard up over not wanting to fall back into the same patterns they had before. But we still got to see it. We saw a relationship start, we saw it progress, we saw it end, and we got to see after the end. This was a show where, despite all the shipping, characters could be more than just their relationships. And I loved that, which is a different kind of ship. And I stand for it. Thank you all for watching. This has been Sarcastic Chorus. Please like, share, and subscribe. Tell me what you thought about Flame Princess and Finn. Did it break your heart? Did it make you angry? Whatever the reason, let me know down below, but please have a good one. Finn banged a pillow twice, and that got him an Emmy. That sentence is completely insane, yet somehow factually accurate. Adventure Time is famous for many, many things. Wacky hijinks, colorful characters, nightmare fuel, deep melancholy-inducing existential dread, and Finn's love life. But if there's ever an episode that showed just the strange, blistering heights that only Adventure Time could reach, it's Bahoy. As Finn fucked a pillow and died, yet somehow the show just expects us to act like nothing happened. Something made all the more galling with how the episode slapped us in the face with stoic philosophy, and how our inability to live up to those ideals is what makes us human, not failures. We need to talk about this episode. I need to talk about it, as it is something else. Not to mention it has the best innuendo in cartoon history.
Where I'm from, blankets and pillows are used for bedding.
Well, they're used for that here, too.
God damn.
That line will never stop being funny to me. And then you just know Finn kept his pillows warm from then on. But real context. Finn, the human and future recipient of trauma, was having a bit of a low day. Shockingly, this had nothing to do with the sky raining knives, as yes, that's normal. And no, I can't explain it. What I can explain is Finn's sad boy state. The dude was bummed, cause he's 15 and his girlfriend doesn't think he's that funny, which is the hyperbolic, hormonal way of saying he told one singular joke that didn't land, and that was yesterday, but he's still not over
I
it.
told her a joke the other day, and she didn't even laugh or anything. Guess it's over between us.
That's it?
Now, I know this sounds crazy, because it is, but he's also 15 and everyone is running on stupidity and assumptions back then, especially when it comes to dating. This is Finn's first serious girlfriend, so her not laughing at a joke would be enough to send him spiraling into the abyss. As Flame Princess is fire. His last crush was a piece of gum and he hasn't figured out how to act. It's all part of the learning pains of growing up, and while you can tell it's an overreaction, you understand why this is the reaction he's having. So with nothing to do cause raining knives, Finn has nothing to distract himself from his worst enemy, his thoughts. Despite his dog brother Jake's attempts to cheer him up with a pillow fort. But then, Big Brother finds out why Finn's depressed.
That's it? A joke?
Yeah, the second Jake finds out what's actually going on, the grown man he's not impressed. But he does try to set his little bro straight on how to deal with his issues.
This is literally my favorite cup.
Okay, it's a little bit more complicated than that, but not by much. See, Jake's advice to Finn is to stop worrying. That life is filled with struggles and stress, so to focus on imaginary problems is a waste of time and energy. Maybe Flame Princess did hate the joke and is ghosting him. Maybe she just didn't get it. But either way, that moment has already happened, yet Finn is still trapped by it. He's dwelling on a situation and a possibility that he has no control over. Flame Princess might dump his ass later, or she could do nothing. By the way, it has no bearing on his life till it actually happens. So Jake's advice to Finn is to live his damn life rather than be held hostage by his thoughts. Then, to illustrate his point, Jake takes his favorite mug and chucks it out the window.
Now it's gone forever, so it's not real, and I don't care about it anymore.
Jake is giving Finn some solid advice, if through a very interesting way of demonstrating it. But Jake is right. You can either be concerned with what's affecting you or lose your mind thinking about what might affect you. But if you accept that something is gone, then you're free from its influence and are able to live in the moment. This is pretty much Jake paraphrasing one of the core beliefs of Stoicism, with this one being about differentiating between the things that are under our control and those that are not.
Man, having a girlfriend is hard.
No, being crazy is hard.
Finn has invented a problem in his head, sulks about it, but doesn't take any proactive steps to potentially fix it, like calling Flame Princess and busting out the A material. No, instead, what Finn is doing is just sitting here ruminating on a problem that he invented and letting it ruin his day.
I don't even know what you guys are talking about.
Finn naturally decides to ignore all that because he's 15 and decides being trapped in his head wasn't enough, so now he's just gonna go hide in his pillow fort and let his mind fester. And yes, he really does use the word fester.
Festering's always bad, man. There's no good kind of festering.
On some level, Finn knows what he's doing isn't healthy. But like my addiction to social media, he ignores solid advice to indulge in unhealthy habits, venturing further into the pillow fort till he finds an isekai.
Oh, that's That's it?
Dude clipped into a different dimension, killed the boss, then got the girl. This is speedrunning at its finest, and like the Knife Storm, I can't explain any of this shit. The best inference we can make is that during the previous Knife Storm, the imaginary did become reality. But this alternate dimension is a massive escalation from what we've seen before. So I'm just gonna take Jake's advice and just go with it. Real or not, Finn is trapped here, with his request for help getting stalled by a party where his attempts to be antisocial and fester some more getting interrupted by PRB's one surefire cure: horny.
For that here, too.
This is Rosalind, the mayor's daughter and the only human-shaped pillow in town. So yes, Finn sleeps with a body pillow. But it's Rosalind that gets Finn to finally stop overthinking his problems, to stop worrying about things that he can't control or doesn't know the answer to. Yeah, Finn, he's trapped here. He doesn't know how to get back home. That's not something he's gonna solve tonight. His head is running empty and in circles. The town will start researching a way to help him tomorrow. So he may as well stop worrying about what might happen and enjoy the moment. With a flash forward showing us that he apparently enjoyed the moment maybe a little too much, as now he's got a wife and 2 kids. Finally full grown, Finn has apparently stopped trying to get back home and is just enjoying the life he's built for himself with his family. Yeah, they're pillows and he's eating pillows, but he's living the good life. But then the hypothetical chance to return to his old life just gets dropped into his lap, which he's already 2 kids deep, but fuck him. Finn apparently uproots his entire family, embarking on a quest to find a magic door that might lead him back home. Finn had a life some people can only dream of. He's got the wife, the kids, the bod, but he has ignored all that to focus on what he lost, spending literal years searching, and all he got was one less arm to show for it. But then he realizes that maybe, just maybe, he doesn't want to go back. All these years spent festering on why he's here, of how to get back. It all led him to ignore the life that he was building, not factoring how to get back he might have to abandon his family to return to a muddled memory, one that was so long ago he can't even remember his brother's face. Finn wanting to go back is a natural reaction, but after decades of being here, he gained more and more reasons to stay. But he still remembered wanting it, and that was enough. But after years of festering, Finn is finally able to stop, refusing to waste any more time trying to get back to a life he could barely remember.
You're not even sure I ever really existed? And I'm pretty sure I didn't look like this.
Instead, choosing to embrace the life that he has, returning home with his family, with him getting to pass away years later surrounded by his loved ones, his wife, his grandkids, the proof that he got it in. And then he dies. And after death, he kickflips off the god of chaos only to suddenly be back in the real world, having learned and grown from the experience to not dwell on things. However, before we start cheering, this supposed important lesson is complemented and deconstructed by Jake's own side plot, as the man
This is literally my favorite cup.
is a hypocrite. Sure, Jake talked a big game about how his favorite cup was out of his life and therefore it doesn't exist or bother him. But while he couldn't see it, he still felt its absence, driving him to fish it out of the storm, proving him to be all quotes, zero receipts, as he can't even buy into his own lessons. He's unable to pretend just because it's an imaginary problem that it doesn't affect him, even if it's something as small as his favorite cup. With us digging a little deeper to find out that this is all just a symptom of an even bigger perceived failure: his parenting.
Rainicorn babies age rapidly. They don't need their parents a couple hours after they're born.
That really stinks, huh?
Context: Jake failed No Nut November, knocked up his girlfriend, got 5 reminders of his lack of pullout, but while shocked, shook, and not ready to be a dad, Jake stepped up, moved in with his lady, and tried to help raise his kids. Tried being the operative word, as regardless of the situation, Jake was actually super excited to be a dad, but his attempts at parenting boiled down to him just trying to be his mom, effectively wasting his kid's childhood trying to be someone else. He learned the lesson after only 2.5 days, but at that point his kids were already old enough to dip, leaving Jake with an empty nest after imagining that this was just going to be a whole new chapter in his life, only for that chapter to be a short story. So he kind of just went back to his old life, the one that he left like 3 days ago. Jake was ready to settle down, to be a dad, but then that just kinda ended. They were there, then they weren't. The pups were out living their own lives, leaving Jake, Mr. I don't need a mug, to struggle to come to terms with what happened. As by his own words, this shit shouldn't affect him. It happened, they're gone, they're not in his day-to-day, so he shouldn't let this imaginary problem of the moments he thought he was gonna have with his kids affect him. But it does. Jake, for all of his solid advice, can't fully apply it to his own life because it's impossible. Nobody can just shrug and ignore something, just dismiss as not being a problem anymore. And if you can, congrats, you're a sociopath. But for everybody else, the absence of a thing can affect us just as much as its presence. He may not dwell on it as much as Finn does, but that doesn't mean he's at peace with the idea either. So maybe then the answer that he should let himself dwell on it more, to sit down with a thing he wants to ignore, as even if what he lost was imaginary, to him it felt real, which is what gets to the heart of what I perceive to be the folly of Jake's own advice. As yes, logically, Finn shouldn't be bothered by what hasn't happened. Jake shouldn't be concerned with getting back a mug. Logically, it doesn't make any sense to waste time dwelling on what might be and what could have been, especially at the cost of ignoring what is. But that's the trick. The assumption that people can think logically and rationalize our feelings away. When really, to quote someone smarter than me who quoted an actually smart person, when it comes to humanity in general, we are not thinking machines that feel, we are feeling machines that think. While it's a nice idea to think that we can just think our way out of a problem thinking got us into, all of that is to ignore the fact that what we think is a symptom of what we feel. That all-consuming, often irrational part of us that never really goes away, as we are messy, emotional beings. We may get better at managing and drowning them out with age, but that truth never really changes. So while we may not live up to some grand higher ideal, it doesn't make us failures, it just makes us human. And it's finding that balance that's the real struggle. And I know for myself, and just to get a wee bit personal, as I have been in and out of therapy for most of my life, anxiety disorders are the worst, the autism didn't help, but I think one of the biggest issues I've struggled with for so long is thinking that I could rationalize or explain away my feelings, my anxiety, which for me manifests in the tightness and just a hyper awareness of my throat, as I'm paranoid about having a panic attack, which yes, is a vicious cycle as my fear of it happening makes it more likely to happen. So when I was younger and a little bit now, I'd come up with any rationale possible to explain what was happening to me. I'd have some scheme or way to explain away what I was feeling. Imagine that I was sick and that the tightness in my throat was me about to throw up, or the reason that I'm jittery and nauseous because I drank too much coffee and that's why I'm jittery yet somehow my head is a little foggy and frantic. I would just come up with all the excuses as I was trying to come up with an excuse and explain away what I was feeling. And I think a lifetime, a thing that I didn't get other people in social cues, ingrained in me a tendency to just overanalyze everything. Every text I sent, all the ones I didn't, how I'm perceived, what I'm feeling, and yes, especially my feelings. The paradox is that in trying so desperately to understand what's going on, I think I ended up understanding it less, and I end up becoming less present in the moment. So I very much relate to Finn festering on a joke that didn't land. But despite not having a whole pillow life to live, I think I ended up with a similar solution, as dealing with my anxiety was a mix of medication, meditation, and acceptance. Accepting that I can't always explain or hyper-rationalize my every thought and feeling. But in trying to just pick apart my anxiety before it got too big, I only ever made it bigger. And it was by allowing myself to feel what I was feeling, to embrace the anxiety, that I was able to finally get through it. As more often than not, what I was worried about was truly unserious. Like there's this one time, I will always remember, I was fucking afraid of having a panic attack on a tour bus in Ireland. As it wasn't just me passing out, I was terrified of inconveniencing all these other people and having them think less of me, even though they were all strangers, so their opinions should mean nothing. Allowing myself to exist in that moment, to feel the anxiety, allowed me to recognize just the absurdity of the situation. I was freaking myself out because I was afraid of inconveniencing others. It's fucked up, but it's comedy, and I went from forced breathing exercises to giggling for 10 minutes straight as that was just S-tier masochism. As this was me making a problem for myself, and the problem was never as big or serious as it felt at first. But letting myself feel that made me realize just how silly the actual situation was. And that's kind of been the theme of my 2023. Learning to be more present, how letting myself feel won't make me crumble, but help me accept what's actually going on. I love the message of what Jake is trying to say at the beginning of the episode, to not let non-factors bother you and to not dwell on it. But I think the opposite of the message of what the show hints at is also true, that we do have to let ourselves feel these things. Maybe not overthink them and hyperfixate, but to actually feel what we're going through. Because even if they're scary and it seems all-consuming, letting that happen is how we grow and accept them. As after a certain point, trying to out-logic a feeling, you're just making the feeling worse. Also, the story isn't over yet. Yeah, we got one last twist and I'm absolutely not pivoting away from my own life. But Finn, having finally returned to his old life, talks a little bit about the weird dream he just had, only for Flame Princess to call and to tell him she finally got his joke, showing that all of his worries really were just for nothing. But then Finn just forgets everything that happened.
Just promise me you'll remember us when you're back in your real life.
Now what about this dream?
What dream?
The dream you were just talking about? Huh?
Finn forgot the life he lived, which to me is tragic but also kind of brilliant, but also a perfect invitation to debate who was right in the end. As on one hand, you can see it as Finn finally internalizing the lesson he got from Jake. He left the pill world behind, he lived his life, and now they're out of his.
Now it's gone forever, so it's not real, and I don't care about it anymore.
So it doesn't really matter. On one hand, yeah, Finn remembering everything he lost could cause a lot of problems. He lost his wife, his proof, and that can ruin a man. It would distract him from the present. So for Flame Princess to call and alleviate the impetus of his long festering journey, he's freed from mourning a memory, cementing Jake's view about how we should not worry about things that don't exist, as his family definitely doesn't anymore. But while you can see the logic and view that as a happy ending of sorts for Finn, for him not to be burdened with these memories and emotions, there's something tragic about this as well, as Finn just forgot. He went back on his promise to his wife and rendering her and Finn's experience as meaningless. The episode, in its own way, is almost daring us to come to our own conclusions on just how valid Jake's advice ultimately is. As while great in the theoretical, we as people aren't really built for it. Though we do benefit from letting go of things and imaginary problems, there comes a point where you have to ask if forgetting is really the right answer, to act like something doesn't bother us when it really does. And trying to ignore it only makes it worse, costing us time and my parents tons of money. So maybe, just maybe, the things we want to ignore deserve more than that, and we should allow ourselves to mourn and feel that. Even if it costs us time and energy, it could give us closure, and that, more than anything, will allow us to better exist in the present. Jake trying to follow his own advice has left him with unresolved issues with his kids. Finn forgot and can't comprehend what he lost. While a lot of cases Jake will be right, I think the final conclusion is left up to our own interpretation. This episode is strange, it's surreal, and filled with such weird concepts like a man-pillow hybrid. But ignoring all of the weird trappings, you will find something truly special. This Adventure Time episode has always stuck with me for the longest time, as it just hit me a certain kind of way. And I think it was only really while making this video that I was able to unpack why it meant so much to me. Finn fucked a pillow, but everything else involved, yeah, it really deserved that Emmy. Alright, that's all I wrote, folks. Tell me what you all thought of this episode. Hope everyone lets themselves feel what they're feeling. But also, tell me which Adventure Time episode has stuck with you the longest and why. As while Fiona and Cake may be getting a second season, that doesn't mean we should just forget the show that helped raise us. Or maybe we should. Imagine if someone slapped your buns, stole your house, got your crush, and was all around a menace, only for them to still be one of your best friends. Also, they kissed a couple times.
But no tongue.
What?
Now from just that kiss part, I know you're thinking, ship, which, true, but this isn't just a ship, it's a friendship. Crazy, I know, but despite some takes online, and in real life, guy-girl friendships are possible. Some of y'all just can't not shoot that shot. So, since I'm recovering from trauma related to a certain fictional creep who couldn't take the hint, I decided to bring back the one major Adventure Time ship I've never talked about. That's right, Finn x Marceline. Now, for those who don't know their history, Finn x Marceline's chokehold on early Adventure Time was legendary. This was before women were fire and Finn didn't take that L, so with limited options, people naturally gravitated towards Marceline's bad self as one of the top contenders to date the child. But despite some early hints, the story would end up going in a slightly different direction. So to restore my faith in humanity, the cartoon edition, I'm gonna break down what happened between them, why it works, why it was popular, and how it managed to buck certain romantic tropes and create a friendship that so many would come to cherish. And yes, this is therapy because I'm still annoyed about Sheldon.
What will it take for you to realize that you love me?
He sucks so hard. But let's talk ship. Context for those who, by some tragedy, aren't familiar with Adventure Time's game yet, Adventure Time is a story of Finn and his magical dog brother Jake. In the land of Ooh, a world of strange magical people, these children are somehow the only people able to get shit done, regularly saving the princess from her future father-in-law, beating his ass. Adventure Time is a show where basically anything can happen, and yes, that does include depression. AT, from the goofy and kinda cringe promotion it had early on, would immediately prove to be a banger, combining silly action, fun, and then slap you in the face with some of the realest shit you've ever heard.
It's all part of growing up, and you never really stop growing.
While the show would mellow out over the years, it never stopped being goofy, just like it never stopped being deep. With the catalyst for this switch in tone, besides that one time Finn realized finding your bio dad can be a mistake, was Finn's love life. People obsessed over this thing, as the show loved to tease out who Finn would end up with each relationship serving as an important signifier of where he was emotionally and maturity-wise. From a lovesick puppy to a shitty boyfriend, till he finally found his groove and himself. But holy fuck, was the lovesick puppy stage hard to watch.
Finn, no.
Now, in the middle of all this, we were thankfully introduced to one of the best characters in the show, Marceline. So, to just dive into how they first met, Finn's dog is telling him a scary story about vampires, talking about how vile and dangerous the creatures were, with Jake backing up his story with the usual Big Brother source.
My source is that I made it the fuck up.
A little rattled, but used to being monsters for breakfast, Finn, he's mostly okay. Still. The jump scare, where he runs to Jake only for him to cop to just trying to scare him, so naturally Jake pisses himself when the actual vampire shows up.
Hey guys, what's up?
So Marceline is an immortal freak who's made fucking with people her 9 to 5. She really broke into a child's house, established dominance, only to keep switching between chill and a menace at will. This is pretty much Marceline's vibe this entire episode. We started this thing with Jake giving horror factoids about vampires, only for Marceline to validate or subvert those expectations. She doesn't drink blood, she just prefers the color red. She's stuffing strawberries in Finn's mouth, hungrily eyeing his reddish PJs, only to start regaling them with stories of her wild adventures. Girl is basically impossible to get a read on, but people wanted her immediately. 'Cause goth. So naturally she got shit with Finn. No question, was always gonna happen, with AT only adding fuel to that fire, as at first it seemed like this could actually happen.
Mwah.
Like, yes, she reveals she called dibs on this tree and leaves the brothers homeless, but in the brain rot world that is shipping, a blush might as well be a confession. The fact though that she gives Finn a kiss basically guaranteed that this ship was going to the moon. Marceline was a wild card in a world that seemed incredibly simplistic at the time. Everyone else you could look at and immediately know if they were chill or not. Moral complexity hadn't entered the chat yet, and Finn was too young to know better, just like the audience. So despite the woman stealing their treehouse, trying to steal their second home when they finally set it up, nearly unaliving Jake, turning into a bat monster to throw hands with, again, a child, people saw a peck on the cheek and thought, maybe.
You stay away from that!
Marceline's appeal was in her mystery, her wildness, the chaos she brought to the story, with it being very easy to see why your young self watching would just zoom past all the literal crimes that just happened. People will forgive evil so long as it's entertaining and hate good if it's boring. Marceline is many things and entertaining is all of them. You can write off everything she's done as being a puckish rogue, a delightful scamp, watch list worthy. She was, in quotes, probably always gonna give Finn back his house. She's one to rile the kid up so that he'd fight her, which is what she really was after. Hopefully. Ignore the murder, we never figure out if she knew Jake could survive this. But by the end of things, everyone was kinda chill. No permanent harm, so no foul. Though yes, Jake was traumatized by this.
Huh? What's that noise?
Sorry, Finn.
But like always, we're just gonna ignore all of that to focus on the fact that this might be Finn's first ever kiss in the show, excluding the pilot. So Marceline is already ahead of the game, which was perfect because Finn x Bubblegum sucked.
You really gotta move on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, sorry.
Look, Finnaline was always gonna be popular cause she's great and vibes, but if you truly want to understand why this ship was so big early on, you also have to have the context that Fumblegum fucking dragged. Like even early on, it was giving nothing.
I'll tell anyone about the private time you spend with your wad of Princess Bubblegum's hair.
If we were to look right now, my spring would be a desert. because that's the level of interest I have in humoring mediocrity.
Like, this might be my bias talking, but early PB, mid. She's fun enough, but not that interesting. We learn facts about her, but we never really dive into like her true personality, and we never dive into like, oh, what she's gonna be later. The most accurate description I've ever heard about season 1 and 2 PB was that she has big NPC energy. The princess is just here to give quests, get captured, and be the girl that Finn was obsessed over.
Finn, no.
So many episodes are just Finn crushing on PB, and this cliche got real old real quick. As it's just a tease.
Grand prize, a kiss from Princess Bubblegum.
The story early on isn't really building to anything. It's just a convenient motivation for Finn that can also be used to edge the audience. This happens a lot in stories, as a will they won't they love story is an easy way to build engagement, as even if 95% of your episodes are, and I say this with all love, one-off nonsense, having that remaining 5% hint at something more developing between the lead and his crush is an easy way to lock in fans, even if you don't care, and people will still tune in just so that they can move on with their lives. This was how PB and Finn was built, a major focus to the series with no real ending in sight, but it occupied so much time, made so little progress, was so repetitive that like all will they won't they's, people started to low-key resent it and start looking for other options.
I'm really tired, so you two should probably get going. What?
I'd like to think of this as a fan mutiny. The show is dragging us towards a foregone conclusion, one that isn't able to develop or undergo radical changes as its love story is meant to be told over a long span of time. So when a more dynamic and interesting example pops up on the scene, people jump ship in droves, both for the other option being legitimately better, but also just out of a sense of rebellion that the show is forcing people to sit through mid, so of course fans are gonna claim anything else could be better. This is your Adragamis, your Zutaras, your Busijimas. Yes, I watch Grand Blue Dreaming, it's so fucking good. Hate the main love story though. A main couple sucking is a breeding ground for people to want alternates. It adds this air of an underdog story. So when an edgy rock and roll anti-villain comes out of nowhere, no shit were people gonna ship Finn with Marceline. She's bad, but also she's proving the more interesting allegations, as it only takes her second episode for Marceline and Finn's relationship to evolve and change, while the other one was completely stagnant.
Down by my water!
Essentially, this episode is Finn realizing that Marceline is just a troll. We start off with Marcy tricking Finn into being her henchman, making it look like she's bullying the elderly so that the noble hero will offer himself up as a replacement. I assume death is only off the table because kid show, and that she could beat his ass. Finn, still remembering the hell she put him through the last time they met, is wary. So she of course abuses the hell out of this to keep messing with him, making Finn think she's gonna eat this other old guy. Finn nearly gives up his morality to be honorable. He fails to save the guy, but then Marceline just eats the red out of his bow tie and leaves.
Thank you so much.
What the hell is going on here?
Boy was flabbergasted and molested. Look, this series really loves messing with people's buns. I don't know how else to explain this, then it's a quirk. But because why not have Finn call Marceline honey? He thinks the vampire's gonna attack a castle, so he autopilots his way through a convo till he runs off to warn everyone, only for him to be the one under attack, with Marcy showing to reveal that this isn't an attack, it's a concert for a child's birthday. This is the exact moment Finn realized that Marceline is just fucking with him. Still can't bring himself to maim a seemingly cute plant, because she said so, a decision he comes to regret.
Not bad.
Getting saved, Finn finally has clocked that for all of Marceline's talk, she's actually not as malicious as she seems. She's chaotic, but not evil, with her worst behavior coming from a love of messing with people rather than wishing them actual harm. So when Marceline suggests strangling pixies, he just says sure, so she levels with them. Then Jake tries to kill her.
Listen, Marceline is not how she seems.
She's a radical dame who likes to play games.
Finn, being a bro, decides to save her, and after this, they just chill. Like, they're just genuine friends from here on, and that's what makes this so good. And what made this relationship so tantalizing, as it has these extra layers, and they can actually hang the fuck out without this being, oh, about the crush. The whole Bubble ship is crippled by being more about a kid pining for an older girl. You could replace Bubblegum with a sexy lamp in this situation, and everything Finn does would still track. Also, we gotta talk about the older girl thing, as yeah, Marceline is older than PB. In fact, she's positively ancient. And I'm mainly bringing this up because a lot of my comments when I posted about it were clutching pearls about the age gap. And I say clutching pearls because it doesn't happen. Finn doesn't end up with Marceline. He doesn't end up with PB. This is one of the few shows where the main hero doesn't just get put down gently. He fully accepts the fact that maybe he shouldn't be chasing these women who aren't into him. And he learns from it, being happy for them to still be in his life the way that they are. Finn is getting pitched a lot of older women, or however old LSP is. But this stuff is addressed. Most of it.
We're taking this to the deep end.
But I'm not a good swimmer.
Don't be scared, Finn. Lumpy's on lifeguard duty.
And I think this whole situation for Finn, I think it fits the power fantasy that early AT really ran on. Finn started out on top of the world, then puberty and nuance jumped him, ruining his life so Finn could build a better one. In my experience, most boys did have an older crush at some point or another. I think this is why so many cartoons have this archetype in it. Gravity Falls, Foster's, Loud House, Jimmy Neutron. It's a fantasy because usually, hopefully, it doesn't actually happen. So when a show doesn't follow through with this, I can usually live with it being in the story. If it's addressed, I'm usually confident that the writers aren't gonna drop the ball. And I'm also not really pressed about people shipping this one either, mainly because self-inserts. Such a huge thing. So much so that anytime someone says they shipped Marceline with Finn as a kid, I'm like, oh, so you wanted her. Full disclosure, I did ship Finn with Marceline. Same reason. And also the other part of this is the fact that we see when it comes to Finn's options at this point in the story, no one was really on his wavelength. Every other option was one-off princesses nobody really cared about. PB could be fun, and The Legend of Zelda ruined me into thinking about this ship constantly. But when looking at who Finn was and what he was doing with his time, this monster hunting, evil beating hero, frankly, it felt like most all of his other options, none of them could hang.
I know better now.
Then there's Marceline, who, while chaotic from her very first scene, showed that she was more of a badass than Finn. She was doing all the crazy stuff he was doing, having these wild grand adventures, making her an easy pitch as the one who can most easily fit in Finn's pre-existing lifestyle. It seemed, and emphasis on seemed here, cause we're pretending we don't know what happens next, that Marceline, while wild, was semi-mailed out by Finn. Could imagine Marcy being worse than she was, hero, villain, or stick something closer to the actual canon, and just have them be a battle couple taking on the horrors of Ooh. Marceline had all this strange and fascinating lore about her, so if you're trying to crash her party and rubberneck that backstory, Finn was gonna be the easiest option to see it. Also, he's already met and fought her deadbeat dad.
Of all history's greatest monsters, you are by far the most evil thing I've encountered. Offer your soul to me.
Now, up until this point, it had been semi-ambiguous what the show is actually going to do with them. We had moments that could be something in the first, but everything after that has been steering them towards something more platonic. Well, that question would be settled, and this ship would get sunk to the bottom of the ocean in Go With Me. As yeah, this ain't a romance, and to the show's credit, they do a pretty solid job of making all these little moments make sense without having it feel like bait.
They explain a grown woman kissing a child?
Said that.
So the impetus for this story is that Jake is a dumbass. He says it's couple night at the movies and says that Finn needs a +1 to get in. Someone explicitly who Finn can mac on given the mood. Jake, he's a classic older brother. He'll give some amazing sage advice only to follow it up with some of the dumbest shit you've ever heard. As he, rather than just including his brother or letting him bring a rando, Jake insists that he's gonna need a date. And if you disagree with my assessment of Jake, well, let's just play the next clip.
She doesn't want to go.
Yeah, she does. We just need to help her to realize she wants to go to the movies with you.
Wise, but a dumbass. dragging his bro to jeopardize another relationship, Jake phones Marceline to be Finn's wingwoman to help get PB. Yes, she's already in his walls. Don't worry about it. From here, Finn gets caught in a loop between listening to the two people giving him horrible advice. Jake has dressed up Finn like a Ren Fair reject. Marceline, low-key, feels like she's sabotaging Finn, suggesting that they put wolves in PB's room while she sleeps to, quote, that heart pumping. And to touch on this, I am almost 100% sure that the writers hadn't planned for PB and Marcy to be exes at this point in the story. But in hindsight, this whole sequence is crazy, as Marceline is just using this tween to fuck with her ex. As with the knowledge that she has and just pure common sense, I think it's pretty safe to say Marceline sabotaging Finn to just mess with PB is one of the more obvious interpretations you can draw. She may say she knows what a girl likes, but Marceline only has Finn do what she likes: fighting, running with wolves, living for that thrill, all the things that PB clearly doesn't like.
Pretty exciting, right?
So yeah, the plan fails. Then, it's later at Finn's place that Marceline and him share an interesting scene.
And anyway, I, for one, think you're pretty great.
In any other show, this would be a confession. This would be the moment where Finn realized that he has been chasing the wrong thing this entire time. That really, the woman he should have been with was the one that was already by his side. We've gotten minor moments that seem to build to this conclusion. A hand on the shoulder, them running with wolves, the fact that they share so much in common, and Finn seemingly comes to this realization and he asks her out.
Finn, you do not want to go down that road with me.
Man, I just want to go to the movies.
Now this is the ultimate subversion that makes me love the build up to their relationship and this episode in general. As where they are at in their lives, this is just so perfect. Finn is like what, 12, 13? He has been perpetually obsessed with Princess Bubblegum, but throughout this episode, it's clear that he doesn't fully understand his own feelings and dating, making it very easy to believe that he would be confused by what everyone else is talking about. Jake isn't leading him straight. Marceline assumes Finn is trying to full-on date PB in this instance, when really, this kid just wants to go see a fucking movie. He's not trying to date PB right now, just like he doesn't want to date Marceline, but his social naivete makes it so Finn doesn't realize how his actions come off to another, with the one person who should be correcting him enabling this shit. Finn is unfamiliar with the different kinds of love. The difference between romantic, familial, platonic, it's all in this messy early stage where they haven't really fully branched off yet. So in this state, with this advice, it makes sense for why Finn goes about it the way that he does. That when he hears, I don't want to go on a movie date with you, he takes that as a, I hate you. He doesn't realize what he's been asking, so he can't accept it in the spirit that it's given. Marceline is understandably trying to put a stop to this, only in a bit of karma, getting her own bad advice to use against her. Finn is trying to wrestle her into submission, though he also doesn't care that she's an eldritch monster, which that is points. But when everyone talks it out, Marceline realizes that this is just a movie. She goes back to being down, and the two go as friends, only to dip the second things get too horny. Now, I love this as it's a nice way to take what looked like a romantic ship and sink it gracefully, so that the actual friendship can blossom from its ashes. However, the thing that really makes this work for me from a writing standpoint is that while I'm not sure what the writers initially planned, Marceline was giving out those kisses when she first showed up, then they decide that this was the way they're going to go with them. Despite the possible change in plans, it still fits with Marceline's personality in hindsight, as she's a chaotic train wreck.
Of course I'll go with you, Finn.
You will?
Yeah, as friends.
Of course as friends.
But no tongue.
What?
Marceline loves to mess with people. She likes subverting people's expectations and watching them squirm as a result. So I would believe that she would go from making Finn think that she was gonna rip his throat out, only to kiss him on the cheek instead, just to mess with his head. I do think that the latter kiss on the cheeks feels baity, so this story can happen, as she doesn't really give out friend kisses like this ever again. But it fits with Marceline, where I feel like in other examples, it's just there for the audience's sake. And to do a throwback, in the Thundercats reboot, Cheetara is made out to be very touchy-feely. Lino thinks she's in love with him, he is fighting with his brother about it, and the actual truth makes everything that came before it feel like a lie. As if Cheetara being like this was a character trait, people act differently with those they're friends with. Some people can be supportive, others can be supportive with a sultry voice while touching his shoulders. I would love to see more variation of how people interact physically with their friends in animation, as some behavior feels like it's too restricted, as it's basically just restrained to just being purely romantic. When some places, a kiss on the cheek is just good manners between friends. However, in Thundercats, that shit is just here to set up a bullshit love triangle when Chitara only wants his brother. But we gotta do this to make the bros mad and pissy at each other. Touch isn't Chitara's love language, it's a plot device to justify the boys being mad. And you know it's a plot device and a lie to her character because the story drops as part of who she is the second it's not convenient to the story, and it's not applied to anyone else. In contrast, Marceline, this absolutely tracks. She's chaotic and enjoys pushing people's buttons by breaking boundaries. So I think she realizes that the child may have taken this the wrong way, and that would be enough to get her to stop. Marceline's arc throughout the show is about her maturing as a person. She had a bad breakup and doubled down on being terrible. That if her ex cared so much about these little people, she was gonna not care at all. But coming back, settling down, building friendships with non-toxic people, it helps her realize just how shitty she has been, the mistakes she's made, and just how awful some of her old friends were, who straight up tried to kill Finn and Jake for a comedy. But getting to know Finn is a thing that grounds Marceline enough to experience all of this, to reconnect with PB instead of avoiding and messing with her. Finn, meanwhile, got a lifelong friend with someone he knew would always have his back. Whenever she was dealing with personal stuff, Finn would drop everything to come help her, and she would always do the same. While not his match, Marceline's more wild lifestyle would be set up for Finn's ultimate endgame later on, as Finn likes to live on the wild side, and he ended up with a girl that lived and killed in it. Huntress Wizard is really a good fit for Finn because they also lived a similar active and crazy lifestyle. She finally matched his freak, with him not nuking this relationship as he finally knows better.
You blew it, man.
Marceline X Finn is an interesting artifact of Adventure Time lore. It was so huge early on in the series, serving as the third point of a fan love triangle between her, Finn, and PB. But as the series moved forward, both went on to just date other people. This ship kind of faded away, and even if people still liked it for reasons, in show, it's clear that this wasn't what either of them wanted or needed. And another thing that I enjoy about how Marceline let Finn down is that while the romance was a miscommunication, I love that they didn't need to give like a hard reason for why this couldn't happen. And what I mean by that is that for Finn and PB, the main thing that kills this ship is the age gap. She's too old and mature for him. By the time he's older, they've moved on. The show's use of the age gap still teases out the idea that they could have been together. When they're made the same age because shenanigans, they do end up kissing. And this, like, it's fine, but something about this is always semi-rubbed me the wrong way. But to me, it adds this idea of if only for their relationship. That it's the number keeping them apart, not the fact that PB doesn't want to fucking date him. This is something that is thrown around in a lot of cartoons where it's enough, it's a valid excuse, but it has the effect that the reason that this relationship doesn't happen is because some X factor. It's the, oh, I'm too old for you. It's the, oh, sorry, I have a boyfriend. There's this idea that something is getting in the way rather than just respecting the fact that the other person isn't interested. Those things could easily be a part of it, but leave something on the table that inspires hope and distracts what could otherwise be just a solid lesson about respecting other people's wishes. This is why I really like how Finn and Marceline ended, and it's also why I think their ship petered out fandom-wise. There's no obvious thing to hold on to. There's no thing if, oh, it was removed, the shit would happen like Dipper and Wendy. No, this ship, it just wasn't gonna happen, and that's okay. The two get to enjoy platonic bliss and a friendship that would last a lifetime, aka Finn's, as this woman was gonna live forever.
Oh, hey Fiona.
Marceline!
Also, I feel like I'd be cheating myself if I didn't mention this, but I do ship the hell out of Fiona and Marshall Lee. Not in their spinoff, but the original episode, Bad Little Boy. It's just a fantastic little fanfic. Is it a little weird that she's shipping herself with genderbend Finn? Yeah, but this is fanfic world. I'm trying to take it in the spirit that the writers intended it. And I like it because, yeah, Marceline would be fine without Finn, but Fiona might have to stick around to keep Marshall in check. This episode was goated, and this one fan art has lived rent-free in my phone for years. But that's gonna be all for me. If you want to hear me talk more about Finn's love life, check out my compilation video on sarcastic vibes of all of Finn's relationships. Also, this channel was denied monetization, so I'm making no money off of this. So if you want to help me out, subscribe to all my channels, and please share, as when I get this thing off the ground, we are gonna be running. Also, tell me what you all thought about Marceline X Finn. Also, who was your favorite Finn ship? We can finally properly ask that now. For me, yeah, I think still Huntress Wizard.
Yeah, what?
All right, shipping folks, we're back at it again with the final Finn relationship in Adventure Time. That's right, we're talking about Huntress Wizard. Though they don't take up a lot of time in the series' home stretch, I think Huntress Wizard and Finn just really exemplify not just Finn's character growth, but the evolution of the show in general. And I also appreciate how it fleshed out a fan favorite design, because yes, Huntress Wizard was in this show, but we really didn't know jack shit about her until she started dating Finn. And near the end, I'll also dive into the contentious conclusion that is Adventure Time's finale. And if a show that puts so much emphasis on Finn's love life could end without giving us a solid answer to who you would end up with. From a simp to a man, let's talk about shipping in Adventure Time. Now, for context for how Finn got it to this point, check out my other videos on the crash and burn that was Finn dating Flame Princess. Because while Finn dating Huntress Wizard is a long ways away, that journey to him meeting her really starts here, before jumping off a cliff into trauma, then finding new ways for Finn to hate himself. Finn's breakup with Flame Princess changed him, but it changed the show as well, taking a break from the heavy shipping focus on Finn to explore more world building and overall making Finn long for his youth. Adventure Time got weird. Not in that things got wackier or more insane, but more existential, with entire episodes dedicated to abstract ideas, giving messages that are never explicitly stated, leaving it to the viewer to sort out their own experience. Like the Hall of Egress, where Finn was trapped in a dungeon. He could only escape by closing his eyes, but opening them caused him to jump back to the start, and he would just do this for months. He would return home to Jake and BMO, be blind to the world, grow comfortable, believing that this time he's truly free, only to open his eyes and come right back to the dungeon. Rinse, repeat, for months. Yeah, I'm not saying the series after season 5 exists solely to fuck with its characters, but it's certainly not giving them a vacation either. I mean, Finn, between his breakup and meeting Huntress Wizard, gets put through the ringer, and life just kept kicking him while he's down. He finds out his birth father is still alive, a manipulative douche with zero interest in him, but alive. Finn rips his own arm off trying to hold on to him, gets depressed, hits his hoe phase in Breezy, where to perk up his flower, he starts kissing every woman in sight. It's all meaningless though, as he's just doing this for personal gratification and loses interest almost immediately, before getting his arm back from the crying bee woman who became a queen for him. There's a message here about throwing yourself into meaningless sex, and some other thing that's up to your interpretation. But Finn got molested by LSP, so fuck him, I guess.
Don't be scared, Finn. Lumpy's on lifeguard duty.
He then proceeded to lose his life savings, kill himself, a past version of himself, who's now trapped in a sword forever, fought Cthulhu and Marceline's backstory, before ending up in that Hall of Egress, because life is filled with lessons, and Finn just gets held hostage by it till he learns them. And after all of this, all the insanity, we finally get to the episode that brought us Huntress Wizard and Finn. Now, I can't undersell what a curveball this pairing was, as up to this point, HW served as a cool-looking but thoroughly disposable background character. She appeared a few times, doesn't do much else. And she was such a minor character, she basically existed in the realm of near crack pairings, with zero screen time with Finn, giving us no reason to think that she would get shipped with the blonde boy wonder. This all changed with Flute Spell. Now, over 3 years after his breakup with Flame Princess, the new character finally joined the fight. The episode proper has Jake being his dumbass self, having no idea what his brother is doing for 2 weeks, only to find out from the local worm that Finn has a new lady friend.
Huntress Wizard!
Yep, he claims that he's just trying to help her out find her old master / possible ex-boyfriend by playing his flute.
What the are you talking about?
He's just trying to help a gal out. But Jake's dumpster fire brain refused to believe it. Like me, as we're given the deets for how they first met, we realize, yeah, this whole episode was designed for shipping fuel. From their first meeting being her finding Finn naked in the forest, which she doesn't seem to mind, grabbing his arm and telling him he's exactly what she's been looking for.
Write that down, write that down!
This would usually be about, I don't know, everything the fandom would need to work with, but then decides to keep going, with HW being the hookup for Finn's first hit. Tripping balls on a higher plane of existence, he meets the other guy who compares Huntress Wizard to a predator. Okay, we don't know her age, but I swear that came out wrong. After that though, it's time to pork.
Hey!
Good work.
The song still doesn't work, so Jake just tells them to duet, summoning the guy.
Attracting forces come and go. It's the way of the world.
I still can't tell if you guys dated.
And then thankfully we get the reveal that this isn't a platonic thing for Finn, but it wasn't for her either.
What?
My flute spell was for you too. You're an exceptional beast and you have great hair.
And not gonna lie, this felt amazing for so many reasons. Like, they don't get together in this episode, or any of them. She's kinda not ready to date anyone, but she definitely likes Finn, believing that they're two exceptional beasts, but that means they can't get together, as that's a secret of normal people, which...
that's real dumb.
And that's all the episode. Finn is into a new girl, she's not ready to be in a relationship, and he's okay with that. It peppers in a bunch of small moments so you know the reveal's coming, with Jake serving as the perfect audience insert as we rabidly demand for more content. It leaves the door open for something else down the road. Finn doesn't chase her like he did with Flame Princess or go sob in the corner like with PB. This episode really just goes to show how much this kid has grown. There even being hints that Finn has lingering trauma from his last relationship, as rather than just asking the girl out, he buried his feelings and said he was just trying to be her friend. The kid saw how pursuing what he wanted caused such a disaster last time, so he overcorrected. When he saw that she liked him, he was fine with letting her go when she showed that she wasn't ready. And Huntress Wizard, oh Huntress Wizard, you majestic stallion. This episode was a shot to the arm for the fandom. The shipping nonsense that had so consumed the show had kind of died down by this point. But to have this renewed attention brought a lot of people back on board. Huntress Wizard was a non-character before this, so they basically had to create a whole new character for just this episode. And it was all great. From her straightforward, bordering on blunt personality, but sprinkled in with these small hints of a softer side that comes off as just a little bit awkward. When she first meets Finn, she demands answers and threatens to shoot him, and he tells her to try, as he is, quote, really agile when he's nude. And I love that because it just shows that they are on a similar wavelength in a way that Finn really didn't have with any of his previous love interests. Flame Princess could be passionate and fun like Finn, and would absolutely throw down. But she wasn't a warrior. She liked destroying things, but didn't get that obtuse enjoyment of confronting a challenge and cutting it down. And this is where our LARP couple were in perfect sync, with Finn being the adventurous swordsman while HW the consummate archer. They made for a perfect battle couple, with Finn's dumb but giddy approach to adventuring meshing well with HW's, who may be trying just a bit too hard at sounding philosophical. He's a bit of an idiot, while she's better at hiding it and is still a bit of a dork. Having dedicated her entire personality into being a huntress, hanging out and talking isn't her strong suit, which just makes it adorable. As we see when her birthday gift for Finn is a literal elk's heart, saying it has metaphorical and emotional significance while giving Finn this giant smile. It's not a gift you'd expect, but it's undeniably her. And that's just what I love. She's such a departure from the previous love interest that she feels like such her own character and has such her own spin on everything. And I really have to applaud the writers for establishing a character so well in one episode, shooting her from background to a major, semi-major character. She's always got her eyes on the prize, but that caused her to ignore what's around her and her feelings, with her own fear of growing soft adding some fun drama, as we wonder if this would truly be the end of the couple, and would we see HW open up some more and learn caring isn't a weakness, or would they just keep it casual? Overall, it was a great first impression, and I was dying to see more content with her in it.
Well, this sucks.
So yeah, Huntress Wizard kinda disappears. Like, it'd be 2 whole seasons before she would have a major appearance again. In the meantime, more Finn trauma. We got to see Finn lose his sword self, get it back, only for it to become a grass version of himself known as Fern. Finn discovered where he came from, his mother is a computer now, and returned home only to find out Fern has gone crazy and tried to kill him.
I know that look. You just killed someone.
And that's only the tip of the iceberg. Huntress Wizard would return in the 10th and final season to help Finn get out of his post-I killed Fern funk. The resulting guilt made him unable to kill anything. HW had to snap him out of it by putting her own life in danger to force Finn to choose between his guilt and ethics, or her.
We both know you're totally in love with me.
And we start to see a bit more of a casual relationship start to form up. Because she's at Finn's birthday. That's where she gives him the present. She's there to watch him get his ass kicked by Fern. She's not really that important, but she's also here, and you can see that something is building between them. They may not be dating, but they're getting close. But that's kind of just it for them. 3 episodes of actual HW content, and after that, she kind of just appears in and out of frame. Like, she only really has 2 major appearances. And honestly, I was pretty okay with that. And it's the same reason I was okay with Adventure Time never confirming who Finn ended up with, if anyone. Whether it was Come Along With Me or Distant Lands, we never got that hard confirmation, which understandably pissed a lot of people off. Because many of people's earliest memories of Adventure Time was the first half of the series, where shipping was everything. And Finn's crushes played such a large role in the narrative. A lot of fans fell off Adventure Time as it kept chugging along, so for them and a lot of longtime people to not get the answer to a question that the series spent so much time on, like, yeah, of course that's gonna cause a lot of disappointment. I felt a little bit let down too. But looking back now, I realized that Adventure Time had long since grown past that early golden age of shipping drama. Finn had grown out of obsessing over every girl he had a crush on. Finn's story after Flame Princess was one of self-discovery and growing from a hormonal teen to a young man who realized the futility of war. He still had crushes and relationships, but those relationships didn't define him. It was his experiences, finding his family, losing his arm, making his peace with Fern. He moved away from the blissful power fantasy of being a hero, where all the ladies want him and he could solve all of his problems with violence, and moving into the complicated yet fascinating web of misery and introspection that we call adulthood, where simple solutions are few and far between, where villains aren't just two-dimensional parodies. And I found that growth amazing. And while I do wish we could have gone a hint to Finn's final date, I'm content with the journey that brought us there and the friends we made along the way. And it's in that mindset that I found Huntress Wizard to be perfect for the limited amount of time she was in the story, as everything about her paints her in an elusive yet cool light, with her own emotional hangups keeping her from committing to anything. But as we saw with her trying to find her old, let's just call him a roommate for now, Huntress Wizard still craved companionship. She's not a solitary hunter, but her fear of growing soft keeps her from settling down, as becoming content with Finn is anathema to her stay strong mindset. She wasn't ready to change her lifestyle, but as we saw, she slowly started to let Finn into hers. I found this to be a fair compromise, as we saw 2 compatible people understand one another in their own quirky way. It may not have been the kind of relationship I would cap off the shipping roller coaster we saw in the show, but for Finn, this was the perfect fit. And if nothing else, at least I had great fan art to help me cope, which is all fantastic. And I guess that's kind of the end of my Adventure Time shipping videos. I mean, I could talk about Ice King and Betty, but that's a bit of a nightmare. I think if I did one more, I would talk about... oh yeah, that one, the finale. LSP and Lemon Grab.
Acceptable!
Who the hell knew we needed that in our lives? And like, it was insane. It came out of nowhere, no build up, and like nothing else happened in that thing anyway.